Hey everybody, wow. So, we start very simple. Who of you uses Google? Okay, who of you uses DuckDuckGo? I see a few hands, nice, awesome. But Google approximately processes 8.6 billion searches per day. That means, doing quick math, 100K searches per second. Crazy amount, right? But from that number, what do you think? We all search for various things, Vue.js Live, for example. And we see lots of websites, but what do you think is the percentage of websites that actually gets visitors, like get traffic from Google? Just like think of a number between 0 and 100, of course. And I want you right now to guess it. Just tell me right away, okay? 3, 2, 1. Interesting. I think someone was very close here, not even 10%. So there's a study from Ahrefs, and it shows clearly, yeah, that big part of the donut here, 0 visits. And we'll see how your website will be not in the orange, also not in the red, but best in the green or purple part. So welcome to my talk, the Vue-niverse of SEO, Uncovering the Secrets. Yeah, I'm Alex, web dev consultant. I just go very quickly over the slides because obviously you don't have that much time for introduction. I got a very nice introduction already. I have a Twitter account. I'm also a Mastodon, I have a website, and I'm on GitHub. So, are you ready to navigate through the cosmos of SEO? Woo! Nice! I love the energy. But what is SEO even? Well, it could be that it's rocket science, but no, luckily not. And even though it's search engine optimization, it is actually quite user-focused. Because, also kind of makes sense, Google and all the other search engines want the best result for the user. So the best content, the best user experience. So they want that you find what you're looking for. Also, SEO is quite easy to pick up, but it's hard to master, like many things, sadly. And it needs continuous improvements. It is not like, okay, I can do my SEO now and I'm done forever. That is not how it works. And it is frequently changing. So we as web developers know frequently changing ecosystems. Sure, SEO, very similar. Oh, there's a core update from Google. Oh no, these don't rank that well. But don't worry, we won't get into that depth today. And when do I even need SEO? Well, first of all, your content must be publicly available, right? So if you have something about authentication, you don't need SEO, it's fine. But if you have like marketing pages, your company, maybe your own portfolio site, would be nice if you Google your name, that maybe not your Facebook profile shows up or your Twitter handle, but maybe your own website if you have one. That would be great. And of course, forums, help databases, and so on, blogs, articles, same idea. And as I said, it's not really relevant for anything behind authentication. And if you have content that's there like for a couple of days, maybe not longer, then it probably won't make sense to like optimize that. If it's gone very quickly, likely doesn't need it. So we have kind of 3 parts of SEO. I'd say 3 SEO galaxies. One of it is on-page SEO. So this wonderful purple thing here. This mainly covers content, because content is still king. If you write good things on a website, people looking for these things, okay, you're like an expert in your area, for example, that's very important. SEO can only be optimized if your content is already good. And of course, it's about keywords, so we figure out, okay, what are people actually looking for? How is the terminology? And what intent is behind there? User experience is also important, because obviously, if they can't navigate on your site, yeah, well, they will leave very quickly. And also setting your meta tags, which we'll take a look at in a bit, and so on and so on. Okay, that's on page. We have also off page. So off page is this wonderful galaxy here. And there it's about link building. So let other sites, other websites link to your page. Maybe because they like the content. It's like, oh, that's a good reference, and so on. Same for social media, brand building, citation. So people just like name the name of your project or of your company, and authority in general. Like you have to show that you're an expert in what you're writing. That's the point here. And there's technical SEO, the third here. And that's about, we heard a lot now, page speed, performance, security as well, actually, broken links, sitemap, and so on and so on. So these are also like just some parts of it. And we will focus on 2, on on-page and technical, because of time. And well, Vue covers exactly these two things. So let's check that out and see what happens. But first, once again, we have Vue. We have an SPA, right? An SPA, we all know that, generates the HTML through the JavaScript, which means all fine as long as the JavaScript. But what happens if the JavaScript would not be there, if it's disabled, or if maybe something breaks because, I don't know, you didn't use TypeScript and maybe there's like an exception? This will happen. You see nothing. Exactly. A blank page, usually white, maybe even with loading spinner. So when there is no JavaScript, there cannot be any content, right? For classical SPA, this is the case. So yeah, a few years ago, luckily, quite some time, this was even a problem for search engines because they could not understand JavaScript. Google's like, no idea. Luckily, that's not the thing anymore, but there are still some, let's say, caveats, right? So when Google is crawling a website and indexing it, there are a few things that will happen or will not happen. So, for example, there are no interactions. Google won't push any buttons. It won't navigate, even have the nicest page transition. They will not click on any links there. They will take them and then like open them separately on a totally new process, so to say. It also means no permissions for like camera notifications. There will also be no scrolling, which is really interesting. So what Google's doing, if you have a very classic, the dev tools, and you do something like, whoops, something like this. Haha, awesome. So when you have the emulated dev tool, it's like, okay, I will use a mobile screen. Then Google also does that, like mobile screen, 400, 500 pixels, but the length will just be 9,000 pixels. So they don't have to scroll, they just get all the content they need from these 9,000 pixels, and they don't trigger any scroll animation or similar. Okay, we have that. And there's also no data persistence. So if you set cookies, if you go to local storage, say, okay, I'll set some settings, defaults, this will be cleared. And there's a so-called crawl budget. If you have lots of files, Google's caching them, but of course, it should be fair amount for every website. So they have a budget that's not disclosed, but if you have lots of big data, like big JavaScript files, images, they will crawl the pages slower than others. And also, of course, there's a timeout thing. So if you load data through SPA, you have the loading spinner maybe, sure. But at some point, Google might not index content that comes in very late. Yeah, that's for crawling. And SPAs itself also have some caveats. For example, if you share like your favorite link on, let's say, Discord with your friends or WhatsApp or wherever, then usually have a nice preview image and title, description. And for SPAs, it's a bit difficult because usually the preview images come from the HTML, which is not there by default because it's generated through JavaScript. So always, like, there's a bit of a problematic here. There's no preview or like a default preview image, and the experience could be way better. Also, we just learned no JavaScript, no content. If you have HTML and like make a mistake, it's a bit more forgiving, but with JavaScript, it's like, yeah, one mistake could lead the whole site to not work anymore. And especially for Vue, you can't use fragment routing anymore. This applies to any framework, but for Vue router is also important. You need real URLs. If you only use a fragment, that won't work for Google. Actually, this fragment part is not even processed in the backend. It won't reach the backend even. So you need actual URLs, the history mode. Which means it's a little bit more work to set up for multi-page applications, especially if you have like your own web server and so on. Anyway. And if there's one thing to quote from this talk, it's this. Even if this it doesn't matter, it's fine, Google can index my page, it's all good, yes, but it does not mean it will rank well. Just because Google can understand your website and see it, it doesn't mean, oh, it's the best page ever. So maybe, in this case, also client-side rendering might not be enough. And what else can we do there? Well, you already know the answer. Server-side rendering, nice. We can do pre-rendering, static site generation, ISR. We heard a lot about that from Alba already. We can also nicely mix them up, and you also know which framework can do that. No surprise, Nuxt.js. You can also roll your own server rendering, of course. That's totally possible, but it's tons of work. Trust me, I've seen these setups. I went through them, and often it's like, okay, we have our custom setup, how to migrate. It's tough. And you can define route rules. Who ever used route rules in Nuxt? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you can say here, for example, every route that begins with blog and then has any kind of, like say slug article name, should be, for example, static as in line 5. So let's say, okay, this will be rendered once, then cached forever. Or stay revalidate, or we disable SSR right away. And the cool thing is, this is usually configured in your Nuxt config. But, little spoiler, soon that's not necessary anymore. You can configure it on the page component itself. You can say define route rules and say, okay, this page, SSR false, no problem. I don't have like a long list in the route rules anymore in the Nuxt config, but I have this very nicely located in the page component. There's a PR up for that, so this will come in the future. And now, let's see what's needed to achieve good SEO. So I made a little overview. We always have like a feature or task or similar. Then we check if it's a technical or like an on-page topic, and the effort. 1 rocket is very low hanging fruit. Let's just go for it. 5 rockets is like, tricky. And we start once again with very simple things. Basic security. It sounds like, okay, what is this? Well, who of you does use HTTPS in their production environment? Okay, who does not use HTTPS? Okay, 1, 2, 3. You really should. You really should enable HTTPS. I mean, that's a must-have nowadays, and it's a ranking factor. So Google will treat, given the same website, HTTPS on or off, better when it's on. And thanks to Let's Encrypt and Cloudflare and so on, it's not a big deal anymore. Also, good practice, security headers, content security policies. These are not really related to SEO, but of course, if you're once on it, you should redo it. So I want to also create trust for your visitors. And as I said, it's low hanging fruit. HTTPS is a ranking factor. Mobile friendliness. Same idea here. Once again, a must-have. The effort is like, it depends a little bit how your site looks right now. Maybe you don't need to do anything because it's already responsive or nice. But yeah, Google actually, as we just discussed with the scrolling part, it crawls by default with a mobile, not only user agent, but also with a mobile screen. Which means if you have like font that's too small or like goes over it, has like an overflow, scrolling overflow, that's not that good. And the mobile friendliness is actually a ranking factor. There's also a tool that you can use to test it out, the mobile friendliness tool from Google. So that's worth to check. And then we have the core web vitals. Philippe already mentioned them. They're so-called essential metrics for a healthy site. At Google, we see LCP, FID, and CLS here. These are a ranking factor. And also, as was mentioned before, FID will be replaced by interaction to next pane very soon. So also there, gather some metrics and find out if you fulfill these core web vitals or not. Effort depends a little bit, again, how the state of your site is. Really hard to gauge from, guessing. And then we have a very easy one, once again, which is text compression. Text compression is another must-have nowadays because it's very easy to set up. All browsers support it. And commonly, you use something like gzip, right? That's the default, almost. But nowadays, we also have Broadly for more than 7 years now, I think. It's faster, has smaller files as output, so it's always good to choose that if your server or provider supports that. So you can set it up in your, let's say, Apache Nginx, or if you use a CDN, it's usually on there by default, that's not a problem. And you can then use a checker to, for example, check your site. Also, good text compression means lower transmission size, so faster website. And Nuxt, for example, or in this case Nitro, supports the compression for static assets by default. For on-the-fly requests, as I just mentioned, you usually give that over to your web server or platform provider. So like if you host on Netlify, it's on by default. Broadly is there. Or if you use Cloudflare, you can like just toggle it, say, okay, I want to enable Broadly. Good. Once again, low hanging fruit, go for it. And then another very common thing, broken links and redirects. Then it's like, okay, make sure you don't link to broken pages. It's not a surprise, right? We all know if a user clicks on link, it's not there, they'll be frustrated, and you might lose a visitor on your page. So, of course, don't do that, but what you should do is you should check regularly for broken links on your page, and also to your page. Let's say, you got the link from a newspaper or a friendly dev link to your portfolio, but maybe the subpage is not available anymore, so because you changed the slug, you changed the URL. What you should do is you should set up redirects for them. So whenever you change a URL, keep the old one, set up a redirect, very important. Otherwise, you might lose visitors because they click on a link, it's broken, say, okay, then I get my info from somewhere else. If you do that more often, like change URLs more often, you might run into redirect change. So /a, link redirects to B to C. The best is to resolve these chains and then redirect A to C and B to C straight away. But keep these redirects, just don't chain them. And once again, that's possible, for example, for a web server platform provider. On Netlify and Vercel, you can set them up. But also, you can use, once again, the route rules, or if you have some more complicated ones, server middleware to say, okay, in this case, I want to do lookup in database and redirect to the best slug fitting, and so on. So that's usually something that the server part is covering. And then we have canonical links. Anybody knows what canonical links are? Okay, a few, great, very nice. So the idea is you should set a canonical link for every page. And a canonical link is the, let's say, preferred version of your site. And you're like, why version? I mean, there should just be like one page per thing I write. Yes, of course. But there are lots of URLs that could point there. Also for duplicate content. We have a look in a second. It's very important to also handle the trailing slash enforcement here. So let's say we have this tag, link, rel canonical, and then we put in the link there. And the idea could be, okay, if I have abc.com or www.abc.com, or do I have a trailing slash in the end or not? That's important, and you should enforce one version. It doesn't really matter if you use www in front or not, or have a trailing slash at the end or not. That's fine. Both is fine. Just be consistent. And point also to Google and to other search engines saying, that's the version that you should index. Otherwise, they might index two different versions, and they might both rank lower than the actual single version that you could have pointed to. And also, if you say like an e-commerce store, you have shoes, and then you have like a special deal. And it is, for some reason, duplicate content here, saying, okay, yeah, I want to show these Nike Air Max in the special section with the same content as the shoes. Then also here you should provide the link to the everlasting URL as canonical URL, if it's exactly the same or duplicate content. And there are lots of versions. So your web server or a platform provider should handle HTTP, HTTPS handling, for example. You have HTTP fully redirecting it after enabling it to HTTPS. Same for www versus non-www handling. Decide for one version and then convert it. And your front-end part should handle the canonical link of, okay, let's strip all the query parameters because we might not need it. Let's strip a trailing slash or leave it there or add it. Let's remove the hash part. All these are important that we, in the end, get this very simple canonical link. Also, once again, it's fine to have it with www in front or no trailing slash, but be consistent. That's the key here. Then we have asset optimization. Well, we heard a lot about image optimization in Jakob's talk and general performance today. So very easy. I'll skip about most of that, but it's very important to do that also for SEO, because better performance means faster website, means happier user, means happier search engine. Also, of course, JavaScript can be improved a lot, like performance-wise, tree shaking, code splitting, analyzing what you actually need. And the static assets should be cached, of course. Good thing here too. We usually do it already. Vue is having a feature. Nuxt is also giving it out of the box, no problem. And please use descriptive file names for images. Don't name it image1 or image2. Actually give it the name, because search engines can even infer from the name what it could be about. And then we have the URL structure. Of course, we want short and descriptive URLs. Nobody remembers like /ID/1AC, whatever. I don't either. So that should be clear. We should use descriptive URLs, and also we can remove the stop words. That's also fine. Also here, as just said, trailing slashes, yes or no, it's up to you, but you should enforce it there too. And you should place your keywords on site. So if you're writing a blog post about Nuxt.js, then in your URL, the Nuxt part should be there. Or if you write a blog post about image optimization, it would be nice that image optimization is in the URL itself. Not only that the search engine understands it, but also that the user can just type an image in the URL, and if they were at your site, nice, they get it right away. And query parameters, they should be avoided unless you really need them, but it's usually better to just work with slugs there. And as delimiters, usually should use hyphens. Also, once again, non-www versus www. Same idea here. So if you have something like this, like abc.com/?ID is whatever, horrible. Please don't. We can improve it by removing the query params, but then, yeah, it's still not really descriptive. So let's get it a little bit better. Okay, nice blog post about benefit of Nuxt, cool, but the delimiters are still off, and maybe, yeah, there's kind of a category here to see, right? Like blog and then maybe post about. Still, it's a bit too lengthy, so maybe just short it a little bit down. And that's a very nice short URL. So if you stick to simplifying it as much as you can, you're on a good track. Okay, and then we have meta tags. So if we have a search engine result on a search engine result page, here we have a title and a meta description. These are meta tags. So are the UTF-8 char set and the initial viewport. So we should find the ideal title and the meta description for each page. Testing is of course necessary, but it's really worth it. And you should also use the OG tags to improve the link previews that I just mentioned. And meta tags in Nuxt, they're very easy to set. So for example, these are set by default. Nice. And otherwise, you can set everything through usehead. And we will have a look at that right away. So I'm happily switching my tab over here to Hello London. We'll quickly refresh this. And we have the DevTools here. And in the DevTools, that has been released very recently, there is like an Open Graph tab here. And it shows you exactly that. It shows you the meta tags. It shows you, for example, the body attributes I said. And it shows also missing tags. Saying, okay, they're required tags, they're recommended tags. You should really add them. And there's a code snippet that's just saying, hey, why don't you add that right away and then fill it in? So you could just copy paste it right away, saying, okay, please, let's just add that. And then the dev tool will be happy. Plus, if you have all the tags, you get a preview for Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn for the preview tags, for the preview of the URL. So you have the image there, the title there, the site name. And this has been released a couple days ago, and it's working pretty nicely in any Nuxt applications with the DevTools setup. So it never has been easier to get the meta tags right for your SEO. And there's so much more, but not enough time, of course. I could also tell you, please use semantic HTML if you link to another page. Don't use a button, please. Use a link. Use alt text for images, very important. Not only, and please don't stuff them with keywords, like just describe what the image is about. It will help every user, and it will also help the search engine. Talk about page structure, sitemaps, structured data, robots.txt, hreflang, but there's more. But I want to give you one more life hack. Use Nuxt SEO Kit. Because it comes with a sitemap module, it comes with a robots.txt module, it comes with schema.org, so easier schema generation, also for SEO structured data. It comes with more experimental features that could improve the performance as well, with dynamic OG image generation and a link checker for broken links. That module is maintained by Harlan, also a team member of Nuxt.js, and he's also maintaining the integration of the use head that we see. So yeah, from here on, just say, give it a try it out, use the dev tools, use the modules, and I want to shout out my sponsors. Thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity to work on open source. And yeah, thanks you for your attention. Thanks a lot. If you want the slides, they are right here. Feel free to scan the QR code or put in the link. And yeah, that's it for me. Thanks a lot.